Hello and welcome to the Film Pulse Podcast. This is episode number 431. My name's Adam Patterson. With me today we've got Kevin Rakestraw. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, hello.
Well, being our year-end wrap-up show, we're also joined this week by Ken Bakley. Hey, Ken.
Hello.
How are you?
Okay. How was everybody's Christmas?
It was good. It was good.
Yeah.
A pretty laid-back Christmas for me. I
Same here.
didn't go anywhere or really do anything. So it was good. It was just my wife and I exchanging gifts, hanging out with the dogs. My mother-in-law's visiting right now. So it's been a good week.
Nice.
How was yours, Kevin? Was yours chaos?
Yeah,
Yeah,
pure chaos.
I imagined.
A lot of visiting, just compounding that viral load.
Got it. Oh yeah, big time.
Hopefully I come out on the other end. We'll find out.
Like every year, we're going to go over our top 10 movies of the year and maybe throw in some other notable trends and topics, and we'll just see where things go. You know, if you've listened to this year-end wrap-up in the past, we just go with the flow with it, see where the conversation leads.
It's always a good time to talk about our list, because for me, and from talking with you guys offline, it seems for you, this is the only way I can get myself to finalize my list is by saying it on mic on the record.
And this year, I do want to give like a strong caveat. So I was able to squeeze in most of the things that I think might have ended up on the list, but I did not see Licorice Pizza. And I have a very strong feeling that would be on my list. And that's one that I just could not squeeze in.
Now, there's a trend that I've realized for me personally is a couple of films by filmmakers that like essentially dominated my life, or, you know, filmmakers that I was obsessed with for most of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Just having, because you mentioned Licorice Pizza, I have no interest. And I don't know why. I just have absolutely no interest in seeing it. I will at some point, and like The French Dispatch was the same way. I'm just like, oh, whenever I get around to it. When those are guys that I would plan my year around that movie coming out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I feel the same way. I do kind of feel the same way. I was actually not excited about the French Dispatch either, and I'm like a huge Wes Anderson fan, so I definitely feel you on that. And there's some other directors too where I'll see like, oh, so and so has a new movie coming out, and I'll just like not feel the same level of anticipation or excitement as I once did.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that is. I think that maybe it's just because, like, for me personally, the last couple of years have been very lackluster as far as movies in general. Like, my list, I'm happy with my list. I've been shuffling things around for the last couple days, and the movies that are on the list, I wholeheartedly recommend, and I love most of them, but there's no like clear standout like, oh my god, I love this movie with all of my heart and soul, and I'm gonna rewatch it a million times and buy the Blu-ray and all of that stuff. It's just just not there this year.
Yeah, I think it's just the degree to which that's just such a great feeling to come away with a movie about, but by definition of how it makes us react, it's very rare.
I think part of it might be the lack of a theatrical experience for most of these movies. Like,
Yeah.
I really do think that gives a movie, it elevates a movie. And even a movie that might not necessarily be like a strong theatrical movie, but just movies in general, I feel like I'm much more connected to them when I see them in a theater as opposed to home. Even though, like, when I watch movies at home, I try to recreate that experience as much as I can. Like, I don't play on my phone unless it's like a really shitty movie and I get bored or whatever. But I try to not look at my phone. I focus on the movie and all of that stuff. But I think that there's still something that you lose when you watch a movie at home, especially if you're Kevin and watching it on like a 14-inch screen with subtitles on,
Hey.
volume at 1.
Hey, my mom, it's
Oh, that's
because
right.
of Tubi.
She got
I
you the
got that
Tubi
new
TV.
I got that new Tubi TV. It's much bigger. Got a sound bar and everything. Watch out.
Oh, whoa.
Oh.
Look out.
Yeah, but I know what you're saying. I think it's something we've learned a lot over the past couple of years, which is that there is so much about the way we interact and live and experience things that are based around locations. And once you get to a point where it's all being pushed into like one space, where one area becomes everything, then it's just a lot harder to feel like you're having an experience, and it's just easier to be distracted, if not by something else, just by the nature of which it's harder just to like feel like you're in a space and you can give this your attention.
Yeah. And that's my goal for next year, is to just try to see more movies in the theater, and hopefully, the health situation clears up, starts to get better, where I feel safe going to the theater again.
I'll just throw this out there. Rest in peace, Adam Patterson.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be like risking my life just to go see movies in the theater, more movies in the theater. Definitely, it's all dependent on the current pandemic situation, of course. But yeah, I don't know. All right, let's go ahead. So I think that what we're going to do is we'll just go like we typically do. Start with number 10. We'll go around and just discuss each one, and then if there's other topics that happen to get sparked when giving off the items on this list, then we'll just get into it. So we'll start it with you, Ken, since you're our guest. What's your number 10?
My number 10 is Judas and the Black Messiah.
That's also my number 10.
Good movie.
Before you give your reason why, now see, this is a movie that I forgot came out this year.
That's kind of the thing, is that
I would have watched this.
We don't like release date discourse, but I think you kind of have to address it, because for all intents and purposes, this was marketed and treated like a 2020 movie for one reason, and that one reason was the Oscars' really weird 14-month release window last year. But it did come out in February. It very much it seemed like there was not a huge effort to keep it in people's attention after much long after that, but it is a really good, well-made film, and great performances from Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield.
Yeah, I agree with all your sentiments there. I wasn't expecting much from this, because it looked to me like a fairly by-the-numbers biopic, and so I was really surprised to see that there was so much like artistry in it, and that's in addition to the really great performances. So yeah, I was really surprised with this one. And this was one of the HBO Max releases, so I think it was like probably a Warner Brothers, right? Mm-hmm. One of those. So with a lot of these, like, they dropped it on HBO Max and it was there for like 2 weeks, and then it just kind of disappeared, and you didn't really know where it went, or when it was going to be back, or what.
I can't imagine from where we are now that any studio is going to try something like that again, especially once they were getting into the summer, once the theaters were opening, and again, it just the way that I can't imagine.
Yeah,
anyone's going to want to try that.
It was pretty wild. It was pretty wild that they did that, but yeah, we'll see what kind of repercussions that has. Kevin, what's your number 10?
My number 10 is A Dim Valley by Brandon Colvin.
Oh, okay.
So this is much like Colvin's other works. This is a movie that has stuck with me throughout the year. One that I like keep coming back to, keep thinking about periodically, like every couple of weeks or so. That seems to be my relationship with his films. Is from the outset, I'm like, okay, this is pretty good. I enjoyed it. It didn't wow me or anything. There's a lot of aspects to it that I enjoyed, but like I slowly grow to love it over the year. And that's the same thing that happened with this one. You got Robert Longstreet, as usual, when he works with Colvin, giving a great performance. He has a really compelling monologue in this movie, and he does his own music.
Mm.
He has his own song. It turns out that Robert Longstreet is a very good singer as well.
Seems like
And
it would
this
be
is-
that.
Yeah,
that
he just-
kind of baritone, like a Tom
he's
Waits
kinda-
type.
No, he kind of sounds like Neil Young.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. It's really good actually, and so that was something that I noticed here. A lot of Longstreet this year, which in the movie that you guys just talked about, he has a small role in that. But
Yeah, he had a
between-
great year.
Yeah, he was popping up in everything.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Cool. All right, Ken, what's your number 9?
My number 9 is Mass by Fran Kranz. It's a one-room movie, more or less. Actually, that's not entirely true. It is important when it moves outside of the one room, and there are lots of scenes there. But it's a one location, we'll say, drama with just 4 really, really great performances from Reed Birney, Ann Dowd, Jason Isaacs, and Martha Plimpton. It's a difficult work to grapple with, but I think really rewarding, and it avoids kind of easy pat answers and just kind of lets us consider what's being said, how it's being said, and lets these actors really work with the material. It's a hard movie to sell people on because you tell people the log line about, like, you know, it's a meeting between 2 sets of parents, and one couple is somebody who lost a child in a school shooting, and the other couple is the parents of the child who perpetrated the school shooting. Like, it's hard to get people to want to sit down and watch that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's I think it could have been kind of very pat or very reductive, but it's not. It's very well done.
My number 9 is Red Rocket. I expected this to be on the list. I was glad that I was able to get caught up with it very last minute. I was able to see it yesterday. But great film, shot in 16 millimeter. If you're not familiar, it's stars Simon Rex, and he plays this former porn star who he's down on his luck. He ends up back in his hometown in Texas, and he ends up kind of grooming this 17-year-old girl, and it's very funny, but it's also very dark, and really great performances, specifically Simon Rex. Like a lot of Baker's other movies, he employs a lot of non-actors in here, and he really just sort of takes a deep dive into this community, and yeah, it was great. It's funny, it was sad, it was infuriating at times because Simon Rex's character is not an inherently likable person, and where they go with the story is not something that you typically see in most movies. So I thought that was kind of refreshing also. But yeah, ended up being on my top 10. Red Rocket, check it out. Kevin, what's your number 9?
Strong finish there. My number 9 is a movie that we talked about somewhat recently, and that's Power of the Dog, but I would like you to say it for me.
I don't even remember how I said it. It was like Power of the Dog or something like that.
Yeah, it's not as good. Second
Yeah,
time
I mean,
around,
it was
so
really just it was a
of the
lightning in a
moment.
bottle thing.
Glad we captured it for perpetuity, though. This one's another one that's kind of stuck with me. I found this to be a really compelling character study of opposites in juxtaposition between Cumberbatch's performance, who's someone that I usually don't like in most of the roles that he plays, but this is one that I thought was perfect for him, and he does a fantastic job in. And of course, him playing off of Cody Smith-McPhee, and just how that relationship develops, and that, like, the power struggle that's going on there. You have Cumberbatch, who's kind of uncomfortable in his own skin and overcompensating, and then he feels a connection with Smith McPhee's character because he thinks that he's uncomfortable in his own skin, but he's not. You know, he's very, very comfortable, and just the way that power struggle plays out is just I thought it was phenomenal. And then the landscapes on top of that, and a great score to boot.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Power the Dog. Check it out.
Closer.
Yeah, getting there. Ken, what's your number 8?
My number 8 is The Lost Daughter, the directorial debut, I believe, from Maggie Gyllenhaal. A movie that I watched the other day and was, I think, sort of struggling with while I was watching it. It was kind of hard to sort of piece together exactly, for me at least, where the movie was going and exactly what it wanted to say and how it wanted to go about it, just the mechanics of the filmmaking here. And the mechanics of the storytelling here, but it's something where I think if you just give it the chance to let it sit with you, it's one of those things where the more distance I've gotten from it, the more I've been able to appreciate the meticulous nature of this filmmaking. I mean, for a directorial debut, it's just really, really confident, astonishing filmmaking, and there's this great kind of almost dueling and almost complementary performances from Olivia Colman and Jessie Buckley, playing the same character at different points in their lives. I think it's playing limited right now, but by the time that you hear this, it will be on Netflix.
Cool. My number 8 is The French Dispatch. I kind of struggled with adding this to the list because on one hand, it is an incredibly fun, ridiculously well shot movie with an absolute, like a metric ton of great performances, great characters, or great actors involved. But at the same time, I feel like it lacks some of the actual character development that a lot of Wes Anderson movies have, and for that, I feel like it's a little bit of a lesser Anderson, even though when you see this, you're just like, holy crap, this is the most Wes Anderson movie that Wes Anderson has ever made. I mean, it is like, it is like he heaps it on so thick with like the tableaus and the different, like every shot, every set is so meticulously crafted. I mean, it is like he's just going nuts in this movie, and I still found it to be incredibly charming, incredibly fun. I liked all 3 of the stories involved here, and it ended up winning me over.
Yeah, that was my reaction to it as well. I liked it too, but just sitting there watching it, and about like the first 10-15 minutes, I think this is almost too much Wes Anderson.
It's so incredible though. Like, you'll see there'll be like literally one shot, and they created this like super elaborate set that has like multiple levels and stuff. Ooh. And it's like for literally one shot, and you're just like, oh my god, this is insane.
Yeah, it's this is Wes Anderson as if we needed any confirmation at the point in his career where no one's going to be there to tell him no anymore. Yeah. Which could definitely end up backfiring and creating some truly insufferable movies someday, but it's working now.
Yeah, for now. Like, I still, again, it's not in my like top 5 Wes Anderson or anything, but it's still an incredibly fun experience, and I really enjoyed it overall. So, all right, Kevin, what's your number 8?
My number 8 is something that we saw for Slamdance coverage. Came to my attention that came out this year, and that's Taipei Suicide Story from Kef, I guess is his name.
Incredible. I don't add short films to my list, but if I did, that would be on.
Yeah, and this is one of those in-betweeners. This is that like mid-length feature type long short film, 45-minute type deal, which, you know, centers around a receptionist at a suicide hotel that befriends a guest that's been gaming the system. She's kind of just been spending the night there. She can't decide whether or not to finally commit to suicide. So it kind of takes place over the course of one night of them kind of like developing this relationship and kind of him, like giving her, some viewpoints as to as to why not to commit suicide. But I found the ending of this really, really, really interesting, and I thought it was a really complex look because it kind of looked at like his motivations as to what was going on and why he was, taking the viewpoint of not ending your life. But of course, she's the one she doesn't really see any of those. It's just, I thought it was a really interesting movie. So definitely check this out if you get a chance.
Yeah, I would love to see that extended. I think that they could easily make that into a feature. I loved it. All right, Ken, what's your number 7?
My number 7 is Riders of Justice. It's a
nice.
great movie. Great movie, great performances, wonderful entry in the movie tradition of using of presenting yourself as a certain kind of movie to relentlessly critique that kind of movie. Or perhaps more accurately, the emotions that might drive it.
I just realized that I totally forgot to include this in my overall list.
It's funny because I had, just before we started recording, I had this on my list further down, but I never realized that I never logged it on Letterboxd.
I don't think I did either. I mean,
also
7.5 or something.
Incredible barn. The best barn in cinema, 2021, without a doubt, hands down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really love this movie. I don't know if it would hit my top 10. It'd be close, but yeah, it's pretty great. All right, my number 7 is The Mitchells versus the Machines. It's the really great animated film. I watched this several times. It's on Netflix. I thought that it was very funny. I love the animation style. It reminds me of, it's a Sony animated movie, so it kind of has the same look as the Into the Spider-Verse movies. But yeah, I thought that the animation style was somewhat unique, and I really loved the story and the family dynamic at play here. So highly recommend The Mitchells versus the Machines, and it's rare that an animated movie makes it on my top 10. So that's saying something.
Yeah.
Kevin, what's your number 7?
Mine is completely different than that movie that you just mentioned, and mine is Beginning, directed by Dia Kulimbashvili, the Georgian director. This was on Mubi at the very beginning of the year. This was something that I was pretty excited for, having enjoyed her short films over the last couple of years. This centers around the wife of a leader of this small Jehovah's Witness community, and they're attacked by an extremist group, and her world just starts slowly kind of falling apart, trying to make sense of her place in the world and her place in this little community that's nestled inside of a larger community, this provincial town that doesn't really like them or want them to be there. And, of course, her place as a woman inside of that community, nestled inside that other community that hates it, and just everything that goes along with it. And the great performances, cinematography, the natural lighting. I mean, it's good stuff. It's a tough watch, but it's a rewarding watch.
Okay, nice. Ken, what's your number 6?
My number 6 is The Mitchells versus the Machines.
Nice.
I agree with you. It's really good.
Kevin, have you seen this yet?
Yeah, I've seen it. It's a little bit lower, but that would be an honorable mention for me. I did really enjoy this. This was a lot of fun.
Did we review it on the show?
I'm pretty sure we did.
I can't remember. Yeah, it's great.
Honestly, this is another movie that felt like I've watched this 2 years ago, maybe.
Yeah. All right, my number 6 is Come On, Come On. This is the Mike Mills one with Joaquin Phoenix. This is a movie that sort of reminded me of at least how I felt when I saw Patterson, the Jim Jarmusch one from a couple years ago, where it just felt so pure to me, and I just had this like kind of good, like warm feeling while I was watching it. What this movie's about is basically Joaquin Phoenix is a radio documentarian, and he's working on a piece about like gifted children, and like just sort of interviewing them. He's going across the country, he's interviewing these gifted kids and just getting their perspective on the world. And he ends up taking his nephew along with him, and it just is kind of an exploration of his relationship with his nephew, and there's some family problems happening, and that's why he has his nephew in tow. And I just thought it was fantastic. I loved it. I don't think that it's so shot in black and white, which looks good, but it didn't like blow me away or anything like some black and white shot films. But there's enough here performance wise and narrative wise to really warrant a spot on the list. Kevin, what's your number 6?
Oh, my number 6 is perhaps the most fun that I had with a movie this year. That you can find this on Netflix, and that's The Paper Tigers, another one from Slam Dance. And my God, this movie is just a fucking delight. The characters, performances, the chemistry, the camaraderie, fight choreography is actually like legit and phenomenal. It's like a throwback martial arts film, but it's not over reliant on nostalgia. It just like you can tell this was made by someone that like legitimately adores those types of films, and he went out of his way to create like the best one that he could. And man, I think when we talked about this movie on the podcast before, I could just watch these guys, but like indefinitely. I think just these characters alone, or even if they decided to make a like prequel with the mixtape that's done in like the opening credits of them as like teenagers fighting. I could watch that. Like any version of it, really. I'll watch it.
The great thing about The Paper Tigers, I think, is that it subverts your expectations, because when you see the trailer for this and read the synopsis, it doesn't sound like it's going to be anything special. But then when you actually experience it, it's more than just like a goofball comedy about these like aging martial artists who are into karate as kids. Like it's not.
Yeah,
it's so much more than that.
I think this is like perhaps one of the biggest surprises for me in terms of like what I was kind of expecting, or where I set my expectations going in, and then what it turned out to actually be. And like I love this movie. It's so much fun.
Yeah. All right.
I haven't seen it yet, but it's right there on Netflix.
Yeah, it's
right there.
Great.
It's so good. It's so good.
Definitely recommend it. Ken, what's your number 5?
My number 5 is Flee, a animated feature-length documentary about the experiences of a refugee from Afghanistan who eventually settles in Denmark. It's a very good use of animation in telling the story, and just a really, I think, fascinatingly pieced together, just in terms of taking these stories that the interview subject is telling, who's given a pseudonym in the film, and making it into something that's both, taking these stories and putting them into animation, but maintaining just that intimate, personal core to this harrowing human story.
I'll have to catch up with this one. I haven't seen this yet.
Yeah, it's very good.
My number 5 is Dune. The Dune, Denis Villeneuve. I went into this with zero expectations. I think for me, this was probably one of the biggest surprises of the year, just for me personally, because I didn't like Lynch's Dune. I'm not tied to the Dune story by any means, so I went into this expecting it to be, visually arresting, but also pretty boring as far as narrative, and I was like completely wrong about that. I pretty much loved every second of this. I loved the characters, the world building. Obviously, the visuals are next level. The effects work, I think, is probably the best I've seen this year as far as the CG, the design of like the ships and the way that the buildings looked and everything. Just yeah, what a great experience it was to see this. So yeah, love Dune.
Yeah, it's just one of those movies. I also liked it, not enough to put it on my top 10 list, but it's just a movie that I'm just so happy that that's how it ended up.
Yeah,
getting released.
Yeah. Kevin, what's your number 5?
Number five is another slam dancer, which I'm quickly realizing is like, I guess, what I should pay attention to most in terms of festivals.
Well, Slam Dance used to be
that,
pretty rough. Last year was a really good year for Slam Dance.
And there was another year too.
Yeah, there was.
That was really, really strong.
It was like when we first started covering Slam Dance. It was like there was like one year where it was just every movie was awesome.
This one is Lapsus from Noah Hutton. The
my
small
God.
scale, but still highly impressive sci-fi film with an incredible performance from Dean Imperial.
All right. I didn't know that this. Okay, I kind of forgot. I forgot that this came out. This would 100% go on my list, but I totally forgot that this came out.
Well, you can co-sign my number 5.
I do. I co-sign it because, man, I freaking loved this movie.
This movie is so good. It's, Dean Imperial trying to make ends meet, takes a job in the gig economy, running cable through the forest, and for this like quantum computing thing where he's connecting all these large metal cubes out in the middle of nowhere in the wilderness. And he has to deal with, other cablers and robot cablers.
Robots taking their jobs.
Yeah, unsanctioned break times. Just this movie is so well thought out, and like the world building, although it's not like massive on the scale of like Dune or anything, it's just it makes so much sense, and you could see it being a reality within like the year. You know what I mean? That's like how present it feels.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, this is another one that like completely surprised me, that I didn't really expect too much going into it, but man, it floored me.
Yeah, me too, man. God, I can't believe I forgot that Lapsus came out this year. Ugh, that disappoints me. Ken, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is Summer of Soul. This is the last movie that I watched before we recorded. So I guess I could say, I don't know, I could worry, as I sometimes do, recency bias, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Whatever. This is a great documentary. Just, on one level, you could say that maybe some people have tired of like the archival footage and talking heads kind of documentary, but this is an incredible range of interviews, and just, I cannot overstate this enough, just brilliantly restored footage that was previously not known to even exist.
I mean, that's the thing, is like, there's archival footage in a lot of documentaries, but this is like a ton of like brand new, never before seen footage, unless you were like there or have home movies or whatever.
It's just, that's what I was kind of getting at. It's just incredible footage, just a brilliant film, a music documentary.
Yeah, I really loved that documentary too. It's definitely my top documentary of the year. It's number 16 on my overall list. So yeah, I would say it's my documentary of the year.
I guess what I was saying was, we can talk about, different kinds of documentaries, different ways that documentaries are, different formats of documentaries, but however you want to categorize this, whatever it is, it's really great. And again, just the importance of having that footage restored, now available, just the importance of being able to just have that and being able to archive and restore and It's just great. It's just an incredible story, even behind the documentary being here.
All right, my number 4 is The Card Counter by Paul Schrader. I was pretty
Ooh, yeah.
I was pretty surprised with this one as well. Didn't really have too many expectations going into it. I typically like Paul Schrader's stuff, especially what he's been working with recently. But this one was a pretty big surprise. If you're not familiar, it's with Oscar Isaac. He plays a former military person who is turned into like a card counter. So he learned how to count cards because of not a mishap, but he took the fall for something that happened while he was enlisted and ended up in prison for a while. And there he learned how to count cards, and he ends up meeting up with Tiffany Haddish, who is I can't remember the term but she's basically like a middleman to help stake gamblers. So like rich people will basically give their money to professional gamblers to win them more money, and Tiffany Haddish plays a person who facilitates that. So the movie is just them kind of going from casino to casino across the country, winning money, and his goal is to win enough money to help Ty Sheridan's character get a better life for himself, because he sees him going down this path of revenge and he wants to try to pull him out of it. So a lot of really interesting themes in this one, and it's very well shot and some great performances. So highly recommend The Card Counter.
Yeah, I'm one of those ones I meant to see it, but I just couldn't get it in time.
Yeah, it's pretty solid. Kevin, what's your number 4?
This is one that I meant to get in, and I was able to. And this also marks the first time that I rented a movie on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's how much I wanted to get this in, is I rented it on YouTube for $10. And that is I Was a Simple Man by Christopher Makoto Yogi. He's the guy that did, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, August at Akiko's, which was, I think, in like my top 3 or something like that. So definitely wanted to check out his newest film, Heard Good Things, and it did not disappoint. He's quickly becoming one of my favorite directors. This is it's a ghost story, but it's not your typical ghost story that takes place in like the countryside of Hawaii. So there's this elderly man, he's bedridden, he's closing in on death, and he's kind of having the flashbacks and memories of his past and everything. But when he's in those memories, the people that he's interacting with are essentially ghosts telling him about the present and the future. So it's just like everything gets mixed up. Everything gets really foggy in his mind. While like his family is there trying to take care of him and stuff, and he has a really difficult relationship with his family. And it's just, there's a lot of things going on, but it's just really interesting the way in which Yogi essentially wrapped like grief and regret and like entwine them with like this guy's best memories of his life. It's just a really interesting take.
Cool. Check this out. I wasn't a huge fan of August Akiko's, but this sounds really good.
This is less experimental than that film was.
I liked it, don't get me wrong. I think I just wasn't quite as into it as you were. All right. Ken, narrowing it down to the top 3 here. What's your number 3?
Yep. My number 3 is Drive My Car.
Oh, interesting.
Where can you see this?
Where can you see this? I saw it.
I think it's going to be.
Don't say YouTube.
Is it going to be a Netflix one?
I don't know. I think it's in some kind of limited release right now. They pushed the screener link really hard on me, so I always had it like at the top of my inbox. But
I have a feeling this is something that will show up on Criterion.
I think it will,
because I think they have his other movies right now.
Yeah, I wanted to see this, but I wasn't able to squeeze it in.
I mean, yeah, I think the runtime is
Yep.
daunting.
180 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. It uses its 180 minutes well. It's just a movie that has this great, I think, sense of not only understanding how to tell its story over its runtime, but just letting its characters live within the expansive space that it sets in kind of these difficult, kind of hard to describe emotions. And on a lighter note, for people who are fans of movies where the opening credits doesn't start for a really long time, you are in for a treat.
Oh, I am a fan of that. Well, my
It's
number.
not
Sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
just to mention Yamaguchi here. With 180 minutes for Drive My Car, and he put out 2 films this year. So there's Drive My Car, there's Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy, which is also 121 minutes. So I think in terms of like just quantity of cinema, he's up there in terms of minute runtime.
I bet Ridley. I don't know what is Ridley Scott, because Ridley Scott had 2 movies.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And I know. I just saw House of Gucci last night, and it felt like it was 12 hours long. So I don't know.
So yeah, the combined we've got. I'm gonna find the answer to this question of who put out more minutes of movie. Yamaguchi, I think 121, 180,
Ooh, yeah.
301 minutes total. Ridley Scott, House of Gucci is 158. Last Duel is 152. 310. Sorry?
Ridley Scott comes out. There's no reason for House of Gucci.
Ridley Scott made 9 minutes more movie. It is great. I saw House of Gucci as well a few weeks ago. It's crazy that movie is 158 minutes long.
There's no need.
I agree. It is pretty bloated, honestly.
Honestly, the runtime is it's so long it becomes funny.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. All right. My number 3 is pretty much I don't know if it's the polar opposite of Ken's number 3, but it's Zola. This is directed by Janicza Bravo, who previously did this weird little indie comedy called Lemon, which I really liked. Anyway, this movie, if you're not familiar, it's based on a Twitter thread, and it's adapted pretty much. I mean, like, it's pretty incredible how they were able to adapt a Twitter thread into a feature-length movie and do it like verbatim. Like, it's exactly what happens in the Twitter thread is exactly what happens in this movie, and so much so that they even like include snippets of the Twitter thread in the movie, and and then they do something else where they change perspectives and they start following a Reddit thread. And it's so well made, and the story is insane. It's hard to believe that it really even happened, and it's just it's wild. It's hilarious. It's also sad in a lot of ways, but I wholeheartedly recommend Zola. I thought it was pretty incredible.
Yeah, I liked it too. Again, didn't make my list, but yeah, recommended.
Another movie that I forgot came out this year.
Yep. Kevin, what's your number 3?
Apparently, there's a lot more movies that came out besides the 68 that I saw.
68. Oh man, and that includes short films too, man.
It sure does, man. Yeah, it was not a good year.
No, it wasn't a good year for me too either.
My number 3 is the one that was already been mentioned, and that's Dune.
Dune.
It's a spectacle. Just a spectacle. I agree with everything that you said. This is also a film that it's like its scope in terms of like world building and just everything, production design, art design. Just it felt massive in a way that I haven't experienced in quite some time. Like in terms of a blockbuster, where I felt like I was in this like massive mammoth world. With explosions and shit and just the buildings and I had a great time with this, and I actually did not hate Chalamet in this, which is I think that's something too that you have to
Yeah.
commend. One
Yeah.
my end.
I think if you I think many people need a warning in advance for a Chalamet in a movie, and I think that doesn't exactly feel necessary for Dune, but it might for The French Dispatch.
He's pretty, yeah. Well, I mean, fortunately, he's only in the one story, so it's not that big of a deal. Did you see, Ken? Did you see Don't Look Up?
Is he in that too?
He's in that too.
Oh Jesus!
He's, oh my god, he's pretty rough in that one.
Kind of Chalamet performance, I think that that can irk people.
Yeah,
Well, and this is the issue that I have, and it's not necessarily his fault because if I was that age and my star was rising and everyone wanted me, I'd be taking all these movies too. Especially if you're just doing like little, side characters and stuff like that. Get your money. But I just hate the way that Hollywood movies always get like obsessed with someone
Yeah.
and then just drive them into the ground for like the next 3 to 4 years. Like with I forget how many years ago it was, but it was like Domhnall Gleeson was in every fucking movie that ever came out for like 2 years, and it just gets irritating after a while.
yeah. I mean,
No.
they got to get the big money maker, the hot new guy.
Yeah. Yeah, it is definitely unfortunate the way these things tend to go because it's not fair to anybody. It's not
Yeah.
fair to the actor. It's not fair to audiences who might grow tired of seeing like the same handful of people appear in, every movie
Yes.
for a little while.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Ken, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is The Power of the Dog, or I can't say it the way you say it, but yeah, great movie. Great cinematography. I want to specifically mention the cinematographer, Ari Wegner. Also shot Zola, another very well shot movie.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right, my number 2 is Titane from Julia Ducournau. Probably mispronouncing that. Apologies. This was just a batshit wild ride. I had no idea where this movie was going, and I loved every second of it. It was just, it was zigging and zagging, and you didn't know what the hell was going on, and like, there's a car that impregnates her, and it's just, it's nuts, and it's one of the most unique and creative and well shot movies of the year, and I highly recommend it. And I loved Raw. I really loved Raw. That ended up on my top 10 the year that came out. So she's definitely a director that is hitting all the right notes for me. So Titane is definitely one to check out. Although it's definitely not for the squeamish. It almost enters body horror territory sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a pretty rough watch at times.
Yeah, I just saw it yesterday. Again, one that didn't quite make my list, but I also liked it. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's a lot.
Yeah,
and
it's pretty intense.
If you like movies that are a lot, then I think you'll like this. If you don't, then I don't think you will.
It's just all over the place. It's just so you don't know where it's going to go. Turns into this like family movie at one point.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre. Not at all what I expected, and that's why I think I liked it so much. Kevin, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is Red Moon Tide by Luis Patino. This is a experimental feature of sorts. I found it poetic and haunting. Perhaps the best visual movie that I saw this year. It takes place in this coast town where the red moon awakens a monster, a beast. They talk lore of, and everyone in this town has been paralyzed, stuck in time, wherever they were, whatever they were doing. So it's a lot of like tableau shots of people just standing still. Some have like sheets draped over them like ghosts. And there's 3 women that come to try and find a sailor that was lost at sea, more than likely to the beast. Just the visuals of this and utilizing the voiceover and the lighting and the framing of this. And this is something that I don't get to say often about a film. And I think this is why it gets to be so high on my list, because it's not often that I get to say that a film was beguiling. That doesn't happen very often.
No.
I don't say that word ever, really. So for me to like get that out of my vocabulary shelf in my brain,
Dust off the old beguiling.
This is big guy. I didn't know I knew that word. Get out of here.
Yeah, this looks awesome.
It's something. It is something else.
Yeah, this looks really good. I'm gonna have to add this to my list. All right, here we go. Number ones. Ken, what's your number one movie of 2021?
My number one movie of the year is Bergman Island.
Oh man, I wanted to see this and I just didn't get time.
It's so great. It's so great. I recommend it very highly. I would say put it at number one. It is just this incredible meditation on subjects that are often discussed in movies, but often discussed very badly in movies, ironically. Artistry and artists, which movies often don't know how to talk about that. And this movie, I think, allows itself the kind of space to work within kind of a liminal property and environment, to think about influences, think about creation, to think about how these characters are relating to each other, relating to their work, relating to just this environment that they're in. And it comes together in lots of unexpected ways, and it's just a quite wonderful movie with some lovely performances, very precise direction. It's Bergman Island. It's great.
Interestingly, my number one, I can say a lot of the same things that you mentioned about Bergman Island with my number one, which is The Hand of God. And this is the Paolo Sorrentino one. This is a director who always seems to speak to me. I pretty much love all of his movies. I find that some of his themes could be a little bit problematic, but specifically like with youth, I thought that there were some problematic themes with that. But The Hand of God this is on Netflix, and it is a autobiography of Paolo Sorrentino. So it's telling his story of him growing up in Naples in the early 80s, and it's just this kind of meandering film that's in the first half, this like really kind of joyous, funny, kind of delightful movie about, it's like this coming of age story about this kid I think he's 16, and he has this like wonderful family, and they're always kind of pulling pranks on each other. And then there's this kind of event that happens, and there's a bit of a tonal shift, and things begin to change. And it's, if you've seen any of Sorrentino's other films, or if you saw The Young Pope, you'll know that he is like sort of a master of the lens, or at least in my opinion. And this movie is like absolutely gorgeous. And so you have that just immaculate Italian waterfront that you're dealing with, and it just is, and then all of the beautiful architecture. It's a gorgeous movie to look at, but it is also a very kind of heartfelt, funny yet deeply tragic movie as well. So I just saw this last night, so this might be getting that kind of, fresh bump for me, but at the same time, I was just so kind of taken aback by it. I had to put it on the top of my list. So The Hand of God, 100% check it out. And plus, they sent me a giant, the biggest coffee table book I've ever seen.
Ridiculous. it's I can't.
They also sent that was the one that had the candle with it too, right?
Yep.
I should have lit the candle.
Yeah, you should be burning that candle right now.
I should have been having that candle next to me while I was watching this, but
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Missed opportunity.
All right, Kevin. What is your number one?
My number one is Saint Anne, spelled S-T-E. We're dealing with the French abbreviation of saint, or the feminine for saint, by Renee Vermette. This is a caveat here, or maybe not a caveat, but whatever. I'm having trouble, and we've discussed this numerous times. My attention span, just like me and movies just don't get along, really, and we haven't ever since COVID started. But once in a while, I'll find myself in the mood where it clicks. This is the first movie that clicked with me when I was not in the mood to watch a movie. This is very dreamlike and ephemeral. It's very fleeting moments. It's all shot 16 millimeter. Takes place in Royal Manitoba, in this like Métis settlement. This mother returns to the camp after a long absence. She's back with her brother, who has been raising her daughter for her while she was gone. It's very vague as to what's going on. It's semi-cryptic because she's kind of talking about like this impending doom, or this impending danger that's coming. But it's also really beautiful in its presentation of like the little things in life, just these little moments. Most of it is focused on like what the women in this like neighborhood, what they do, and it's just kind of like a connection of them to nature and to a specific spot. And because of that, dreamlike, very fleeting moments, very short scenes, like it just clicked with me, where like it was just in tune with where my attention span is right now as this human being trying to live life while everything is burning to the ground.
Cool.
It's just been very difficult. This was the first movie that linked in with me.
I agree. I think that it has been hard to stay focused and motivated with movie watching. I find that the most motivated I am, or have been this year, is when I've been covering film festivals. Like that sort of forces me to focus in and watch things. But I've had the same issues as you, where there'll be movies there'll be a movie that comes out and I'll be like excited to see it, and I won't, like, normally I'm like just rabid, like I have to see a movie like as soon as it hits VOD or whatever, theaters, whatever. But recently, like, I still haven't seen the new Spider-Man movie. There's just like these movies that I have an interest in seeing that I'm just not right in the right mind space for it.
Yeah.
I can never find that. Like, it's really difficult for me to get in that headspace.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Hopefully that will change soon. Doesn't look like there's any sign of that, but
it doesn't
maybe 2022 will hold the answers we seek.
Perhaps.
I think we said that at the about 2021.
We 100% did say that.
But yeah, I think there's so many things about, once again, coming back to what I was mentioning earlier about spaces and environments, there's so much about the theatrical experience of seeing a movie that's not only about, big screen, you're in the place. I think also an underrated one, there's a time it has to start, and that's a big problem I have, is if I could watch a movie whenever I want, that also means I might never actually watch it.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
There's also the selection. I have been for years been huge proponent for put everything on streaming. Just put it on streaming. And it was essentially after I watched Saint Anne and I Was a Simple Man, I just stopped because I was like, I don't know what to pick. There's so many things that I need to catch up on. I'm just gonna stop now. Like I still had like 2 days left, and I'm like, I don't know what to do.
That's kind of the frustration, I think, on the other hand, is that you can have the accessibility of streaming, but there's nowhere to start, you know? It's just so easy to feel like that if everything's there, then it kind of feels like nothing's there at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think it's also like what you're getting at, where I don't have to worry about it leaving the theater. Like it's on streaming. It's going to be there. I can watch it tomorrow. And then tomorrow I can be like, well, I can watch it Friday.
Yeah.
I could watch it Saturday. You know, I'm not doing anything Sunday. I'll watch it Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I've been in the same boat where there's not that sort of time limit. There's not that cutoff. There's no urgency to see it, so you just keep putting it off.
Mm-hmm. Which did slightly help with I Was a Simple Man, where, you know, I rented it. I paid $10 on YouTube. I gave YouTube $10. Get the fuck out of here. And, you know, you have a window of like, you have 48 hours to watch this. It says like, I have to watch this. Yeah. I'm not losing $10 to fucking YouTube.
Yeah. Well, you could have rented it on Vudu. Give $10 to Vudu.
That's true. There's a couple other spots.
That's the thing. Is at least with YouTube and Amazon, you know exactly what evil corporation your money is going to. When I rent a movie on Vudu, I don't know where it's going.
Yeah, who owns Vudu?
Is it Walmart? Does Walmart own them?
Oh my god, am I giving money to Walmart?
I mean, at this stage in the game, it's kind of better than Amazon now.
Yeah, probably.
It's a joint. It's owned by Fandango.
Yeah. Wait, who owns Fandango?
Walmart.
Probably.
Is that true?
A joint venture between NBC Universal and Warner Media. Parent organizations Walmart and Fandango. So there you go.
Yeah, I thought Walmart was involved there.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I will say that Vudu actually has good customer service from the one time I used it when I rented a movie, and like something was wrong with like the file. Like there was a problem not only with the video, the audio, and I actually called their customer service hotline. They actually did refund me, which is probably more than you could say about a lot of things. I mean, this is not to become this is not to become a pro Walmart corporation.
No. Everybody knows that this is a Tubi podcast.
This is a pro Tubi podcast.
We're the ones that we promote Tubi.
Which I should check to make sure who owns Tubi.
It's Fox.
Make sure
Fox.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually
that's not this. That's not good.
Yeah, on the Christmas episode of Saved by the 90s, we actually dug into Tubi and found out that it was Fox Corporation.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Yes, 100% of every well, they don't have money. All money that Tubi generates goes directly to the Murdochs.
To the Murdoch family. It's hilarious. All right, I think that's gonna do it for this year. There've been some good things that have come out this year. Nothing, in my opinion, nothing like completely mind blowing, but it's still a solid year nonetheless. And this is another year where our lists, there's not a whole lot of overlap there. There's, some similarities, some things, but all of our number ones are different. And I imagine that once we start posting up everybody else's lists on the site, that it's going to be the same. There's going to be a lot of different number ones, which I think is really interesting, because in the past, it was pretty much, there was like the same like 3 movies that overlap.
And that's the interesting thing with streaming, where you have people not going to the theaters. You have people prioritizing their own viewing. The things that they want to see. It's not just every single person that is doing film criticism or film criticism adjacent going to the theaters to see the same thing, to have the same discussion. People are in charge of that now, and they can watch their own things, and you're starting to see what people are gravitating towards. That if you didn't have those guidelines as to like, oh, we need to cover these things, this is what people would be watching.
Yeah, I think that is very interesting to see.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's going to do it. Thank you so much for listening. You can send us your questions, topics, your top 10s to podcast@filmpulse.net. You can follow us on Twitter @FilmPulseNet and @FilmPulseKevin. And if you have a minute, consider reviewing us on your podcast platform of choice. For Kevin Rakestraw and Ken Bakley, my name's Adam Patterson. We'll see you next week.